it's not there. Ooh.
Yep, it's not there.
And I think everyone is sad to not have the music in their lives.
I've just had pirate sea shanties stuck in my head all day.
Pirate sea shanties?
Yeah, those are the best songs.
Why? Why would you? Can you stand up straight? Like stand up straight, not like sit up straight. Stand up straight. I want to see. Get that space here. Oh, look at you. In all your glory.
Oh, I'm dizzy.
Are you like, what do they call that when like birds do that? Is that like peacocking? Is that what that's called?
Peacocking? What? When they pass out?
All right, I gotta check the sound. Make sure we've got sound.
There's a word for it when you stand up and you get low blood pressure and then you can't see.
Let's see.
I've only passed out like 3 times though.
You've only passed out. I passed out a couple times.
One time was in a soup kitchen. That was embarrassing. But what's nice about that is the paramedics get there real fast. So they were there in like 2 minutes.
That's good.
It was crazy. Maybe it was longer.
Oh, audio's working. All right, I got you. Head rush. Kevin, stop passing out.
Is that Connie?
That's Connie. I would say that is kind of like. I mean. Is that like your Bojangles?
We're warming up.
Is that a? I think that reminds me of Mary Poppins with Dick Van Dyke.
I call it the olive oil.
Oh, did you ever really dance like that? You know, there really was like a real life Popeye. Did you know that? Speaking of olive oil.
Robin Williams?
No. Oh. I remember that movie came out when I was working in a movie theater. I was a kid. How's everybody doing? How's everyone on their goals, Kevin? What is your goal?
I want to learn how to twerk.
Okay, we're not doing that here. You can do that on your own channel. You can open up, what is it called? OnlyFans? What is it called? OnlyFans. Kevin is going to do that on his OnlyFans.
I already have one of those. But it's not for twerking.
I don't judge, but you know, this is a family channel.
Oh, is it?
I mean, it's family-ish.
Family-ish. You were swearing.
I was, and I apologize to all of our...
for a family channel.
I know. Was I really swearing? When was I
swearing? Yeah, you dropped the F-bomb.
Did
I was like, oh man. Are we gonna get demonetized?
We've never been monetized. I think you're totally allowed to swear.
How does it work? Like, if we used to swear and we don't anymore.
What you can't do is if you, my sense is that you have to declare, every time you upload a video, you have to say whether or not it's intended for children or not.
What did you say for that one?
I mean, well, for everyone, it's just default no. And if it is, I think there are certain standards that you have to apply.
But I still think I think even for the adult ones or the non-children ones, you have to follow, like you can't curse.
No, you're totally allowed to curse.
Really?
Oh yeah, totally allowed to curse. I think technically kids are not under 14 or 13 years of age are not supposed to be on YouTube. You can't sign up for a YouTube account unless you were lying if you're under 14.
Like clicking
but
the
YouTube Kids
for
thing
kids.
now.
Well, it's just like clicking on the kids button will open up a wider audience, so it's beneficial to do that. But in order to do so, you have to follow the rules. So some people might not want to.
Well,
so we're just not reaching out to those kids.
There are specific things that you can and cannot do for kids'
YouTube
content. And so
does this mean we can drop F-bombs now?
I would prefer not.
What channel are we taking?
I would say we shouldn't drop
any
F-bombs.
sort of bombs. No bombs.
I mean,
what about
if we can
D-bombs?
avoid it.
What about D-bombs?
D-bombs?
D-bombs.
Which D?
Like, the darns and the dangs.
You can say darn and dang.
What about the...
Dams?
Yeah.
You could say damn.
Okay.
Like Rich, you're a damn fool. That's not only is that true, but it is inaccurate. It's also, I think, this isn't like 1950s, television.
If I could do a transatlantic accent, I would.
What's a transatlantic accent?
If I could do one, I'd show you. It's the, like the old timey radio kind of, like, a transatlantic accent. I don't know. I told you if I could do it, I would just.
I don't know what that was. Don't ever do that again.
It's old-timey radio speak.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I remember those. I like to listen to. They have the on Sirius, or is it XM? Sirius, or what's the other one? There's Sirius and then there's XM.
Like the satellite radios?
Yeah, there's Sirius. What's the other one? Is it XM?
I think it's XM.
But they have the old radio programs that like my mother grew
Yeah.
up listening to.
Like Superman.
I mean, they have everything. They're so. Some of them are terrible,
Yeah.
but some of them are actually really, really good.
Well, it's like back when radio was TV.
Was it? That was it. You had to use your brain to imagine. But they had like the sound effects, and they had.
Well, that was like back when people would fall for April Fool's jokes where if you told them spaghetti grew on trees, they'd believe you.
Wait a minute, spaghetti doesn't grow on trees? What do you mean?
No.
Is that true? I thought, what about that commercial? There's an old Prego, I think it's Prego.
Is it this?
It's an old commercial with the spaghetti tree.
I think that's based on like an old April Fool's joke that was done by some radio show where they were, or like maybe it was a TV spot where they.
There was a TV, I remember
It was
as a
like
kid.
it was like a fake documentary about like how Italians would go out
And pick it
into
off the
fields
trees.
and like pick it off trees. It was really ridiculous, but people would write in asking how to
How do I
their
plant
own
a spaghetti tree?
How awesome would that be?
I would plant a spaghetti tree.
Well, what they were told is you like put spaghetti into an empty can of pasta sauce and then bury that with dirt. Pretty funny.
That's hilarious. I mean, there was the War of the Worlds thing,
Yes.
right? That was like a real thing.
Yeah.
The aliens invaded.
Same idea. Yeah. I like that a lot.
Orson Welles. I think that's how Orson Welles became famous.
That cereal.
Was that? I'm not sure if it was a cereal or if it was like a one-off. But yeah. I mean, that was back when you couldn't get on the internet and like
Check.
you couldn't fact check anything. But would you be surprised, like, if it came out that we had made contact with aliens and the government had just concealed it? Would you be shocked?
I assume that's, if there's been any like formal alien contact,
I'd be
that,
shocked if we could communicate with aliens at all.
other than by being eaten by them.
Like, we can't even talk to animals, and they live here, you know? Like, what are we gonna talk
I mean,
to aliens?
Yeah, but we're assuming that the aliens are like super intelligent, which is not necessarily true, right?
Could
Like
be
the
just
aliens could just be like us, but just like
intelligent enough.
got onto a ship and just was like, all right, we'll go, and they don't really have any like.
Or it could be like,
Well, we do have those translators, right, for the dogs and the cats, and you put it on there, and you can.
do they have that?
They have. I mean, they have them,
I
but
thought those were like novelty.
I think we just came out with like the automatic
It
translators.
seems like something Elon Musk would make.
I think-
But for cats.
But for
Oh.
So what are our goals? Did everyone meet their goals? I want to have everybody comment. I want to give away some free keys. If you've met your goal, don't lie. Don't lie. Be honest. What? You don't get a freebie.
I don't.
I'm just saying, man, if people had goals, I wanted to know what they were. And I want to see if you guys made your goal yet.
What were your goals?
My goal is just to show up every day, like to get out of bed and keep breathing. That's a major accomplishment for me.
That feels like in.
But I'm not going for the gi, you know, like
I don't know.
I just-
showing up.
showing up. There's an old saying, I think it was Woody Allen, something like this, like success, like 95% of success is just showing up.
Yeah, that was my motto in college, and I think there are better mottos out there. You know, show up to class, sure, that is 95% of the work, but, you know, that extra 4%, 5% is important. But I guess showing up is fine.
What's that?
Showing up is fine.
Showing up is on time.
Showing up on
On
time.
time is,
Have you noticed your push-ups getting easier?
yes.
Or your squats getting easier?
Notice my hip is
Your hip?
like every time I squat is pain.
I don't think I've ever been able to do this many push-ups, which is kind of cool. But
I did some bench presses today, and I have to say I was able to do more reps at more weight than I've normally been able to do. And it was kind of out of the blue. So,
ooh, I ate brown rice last night. Are you proud of me?
I mean, first of all, brown rice is disgusting and un-American.
Hell.
But other than that, yes, that's good.
And kale. I had some kale.
Oh, you had kale too? I actually like kale.
It was in a smoothie.
You know what makes kale really good?
Blending it and then putting it in something better.
No.
No, then what?
I mean, kind of. Like chopping up bacon and putting it in with your kale.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That is delicious. Like pretty much any, like Brussels sprouts. So when I was a kid, my mother used to make Brussels sprouts. And like the way she would do it is she would take kind of like these in the pot colanders. And it was like, she'd boil it, would steam it. And it'd be these steamed Brussels sprouts, which are, you know, there was no salt or seasoning or oil. It was just straight up Brussels sprouts, like pure Brussels sprouts. And I hated them. And I never wanted to eat them. And then Iris made them. And she put like salt and pepper and oil and pancetta. And then she broiled them. I've heard. Yeah, she didn't boil them. She like, they were like crispy.
Yeah.
And they were like, I wouldn't say they're delicious, but they were pretty darn good.
Not bad.
I mean, I was not like, I wasn't like I used to when I was a kid. I don't know if you did this whenever I had to eat anything I didn't like. I would take one bite and then just like drown it in whatever I was drinking.
Yeah.
Right? So I didn't have to taste it at all. So I didn't have to do that with this. So I was grateful.
You like try and chew it with something good to escort it past whatever gag reflex is trying to keep it out.
I mean, when I was a kid, the best meal that we would get was like the Swanson's Hunger Man TV dinners. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
I mean, my mother, actually, there were some dishes that I really didn't like that she would make. But for the most part, and it wasn't because she was a bad cook, she just didn't have a lot of time to cook. And so, you know, there was some tuna fish casseroles involved and, you know, stuff like that. I'd be like,
if the meal was bad, what would happen?
what do you mean?
Like, if you would you refuse to eat, and if so,
There was no, I mean,
is there a
when
motivation?
my mother was still married to my stepfather, there was no refusing, right? You had to eat it.
Yeah.
And you could resist. Like I used to fight about it,
Yeah.
and he would just, you know, basically be like, "You're gonna sit here all night until you finish your plate."
Yeah.
And I did that once or twice. And my mom's like, you know, at one point, like he left, and my mom's like, "Stop being stupid. It's just gonna get cold. It's gonna be even worse. Just eat your food."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I'll show you."
Sometimes you just want to like see how long you can wait. when you're a
Yeah.
kid.
Well, it didn't end well. There were a lot of tears as I choked down my Brussels sprouts and tuna fish casserole. But once they got divorced, I was a little bit better about, you know, being able to get away with that stuff. But I think one of my theories now thinking back on it was that he asked for those things just to make me, you know, just to punish me basically.
Yeah. Here's an opportunity to make Rich suffer.
Oh, well, let's have some of that tuna fish casserole again. Thanks, Mom.
I don't know why, it's my favorite.
I can't. I'm like, really? Do you really like that shit? I don't think so.
I don't know, some people like weird things. Like, the only person they liked as a child ate tuna casserole or something.
We went over, I had this colleague when I was at the firm, and we went over to their place for dinner. And she would always tell me like how her daughter was super finicky and picky about food. And so we go over there, it's just that we didn't have kids yet, and it was just Iris and I. And they made us this dish. And I had to say, like, of course I ate it all and I didn't say anything other than thank you and whatever, but at the end of it, when we were going home, I'm like, I can see why the kid's not picky. They're just terrible cooks. But, you know, I didn't have the heart to tell them that. I think that would be kind of rude.
Yeah. I don't know. I was a picky eater as a kid. Like, I just like didn't like crunchy things for a while.
Yeah.
I wouldn't eat anything that
Nothing crunchy?
that crunch.
Like, really?
Yeah, well, like, depending on the context. If I expected it to be crunchy.
If it was like Captain Crunch cereal, would you eat Captain Crunch
It
cereal?
was more to do with my hatred of vegetables.
Yeah, that's what it always boils down to.
So like I didn't like McDonald's because they would put those chopped up onions in the kids' Happy Meals.
Oh.
And I would like bite into it and it would crunch and it would ruin the day.
And you're looking forward to that Happy Meal the whole day, right?
Yeah,
What about pickles? Did you like pickles? when you
Well,
were-
I grew up being very like not suspicious, but I didn't trust McDonald's because like half the time they would forget to take those onions off. And so like every time I would eat there, it would just be like this cloud of doubt and suspicion.
You were like afraid, would you nibble around the edges?
It was like the earliest form of gambling. Like, is this gonna be a good one, or am I gonna have to, just chew it
Oh
down?
man, I can't imagine if you got the Happy Meal and then you wouldn't eat it. I bet your parents were pissed.
Oh no, like they would make me eat it. Like I was just like.
We never got McDonald's. We never got McDonald's. We would be lucky, like, if we had pizza, like, once a month, that was like, oh man, that was like the best.
Do they have Donato's out here?
I don't even know what that is. I don't think so.
Donato's pizza.
California does not have
It's
good pizza. And I know that if one of you guys are from California, you're going to argue with me, but you're wrong, and I will go to the mat on that one. They have some.
The problem with pizza out here is that
It's bad.
when you get a pepperoni pizza, you can still see the pizza under the pepperoni. Right? Like a good pepperoni pizza should
Just
there
be
should
covered in like.
a layer. Like just.
Is that how they do it in Indiana?
The one place that I really like a lot, yeah.
The pizza, the Indiana pizza, that's like a Midwest pizza.
I
Is it
think
kind of
it's-
like Chicago style, or is it
No,
like
it's
flat?
like
Is it still flat?
It's flat style.
They used to have these when I was in New York. The best thing that I ever discovered, first of all, in New York, it is truly a culinary paradise because there is a pizza place on pretty much every corner, or every other corner. And at Columbia, when I got there, they had this place called Coronet, which is up by Columbia, and they would have slices of pizza that were these massive slices of pizza, and they still cost only like $2, right? So awesome. That's one of the major reasons I love Columbia, is the pizza.
One of my most embarrassing jiu-jitsu moments involved pizza.
Did?
Yeah.
Was there pizza on the mat? Did you poop up some pizza?
No, there was a seminar or like a workshop my professor was planning, and he gave everyone the syllabus beforehand. Very type A. Like
Gave you a syllabus?
Like we had like
Man.
a schedule.
Was he like a real professor in real life?
He was a lawyer in real life, actually.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Weird, huh?
That fits the bill.
All right,
Wow.
so like he prepares everyone beforehand, tells us what it's going to be about, but it's going to be like a 3 or 4 hour seminar.
Okay.
And I'm like club secretary at the time, and so I jokingly suggest we order pizza and have it come in, and then I followed through with it, and then midway through the seminar, the pizza guy comes in,
Man.
absolutely interrupts the flow of the whole thing, as I have to like deal with this pizza guy, and I'm trying to participate.
And
in
what
this
was your
seminar.
professor's reaction to this little stunt that you pulled?
He was annoyed, but
But it's
like,
delicious pizza.
But we were
How
very,
mad could you be?
we were hungry because it was a long seminar and very detailed. So it was kind of nice, but it was also kind of silly. But it was a fun memory. What if I start smoking now, and then when New Year's rolls around, I can quit smoking?
I thought you already smoked. Don't you already smoke?
No, not so much. Not cigarettes.
Are you vaping? Do you vape?
I vape on occasion / often. I'm lowering my nicotine level.
That's good.
That's nice.
I've lowered mine. I don't know what it is.
Is it 0?
It's 0.
That's good. Yeah, but how did you lower it? What was it?
Like at some point earlier in my life, it was probably More than 0? I mean, it used to be you just walk around and you would inhale tobacco smoke because the idiot in front of you was smoking.
You just sit in a smoking section at a restaurant and just enjoy yourself. You didn't have to light up.
You didn't. You didn't really.
You know what's really fun? Rolling with someone who has just smoked a cigarette right before they come into the academy.
Sakuraba style. You know what's really annoying, and I used to have this, is when that guy is like just like Sakuraba, but fatter, right? And he still beats your ass, right?
It's like he just rolled off the couch in a wife beater and he like
And he's still better than
stumbles
you.
in and he's just like hungover, got cigarette breath, coffee breath, and just like wrecks your shit.
Just wrecks it.
Fun.
Technique conquers all, my friend.
What do you think about people drinking and coming into roll?
Bad idea.
Bad idea. Like, would you forbid it, or would you just like frown upon it?
I mean, there's, I think, defined drinking, right? Like
you come from work after like
a couple
happy hour.
martinis at lunch.
Yeah, you know, you got
I mean, I
you
don't know.
get 2 drinks in you. You go to your open mat after work.
You know, everybody's different. I think there are definitely some old school professors, instructors, and owners who don't like any of that stuff and think of it as contrary to the Jiu Jitsu lifestyle, whatever that is. But, you know, I think it is a point of like, there's a personal hygiene point of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you come in, like I don't care if people smoke or drink or whatever, but I think you have to be able to take the class and, you know, participate in a meaningful way. Right? You shouldn't be sloppy drunk or, you know, have people worried that you're gonna like barf on them or, you know, be so stinky that people don't want to be near you because you reek. I don't.
Be on the verge of throwing up the whole time.
I mean, I don't like the smell of tobacco. You know, I don't really mind the smell of marijuana, but I think that's more pleasant than tobacco.
Everyone's different.
Everyone's different, you know, but
I kind of like the tobacco smell.
Yeah.
Depends on the person.
I don't like it at all.
I actually have a negative, I have to caution catch myself to not judge people because they reek of tobacco.
I don't know. My grandma used to smoke, so if someone's got the right brand,
Right.
just
You like roll with grandma.
yeah, I would say like safety's number 1. If you can't control yourself,
I think it's also, I mean, it's very rare to see somebody who can like train meaningfully. Like if you had a beer before you showed up, like, and you're just used to having a beer, then fine. But if you've got like, you just came from the bar and you had like 8 beers, unless everyone else is coming with you at like 11:30 at night and you guys want to have like that midnight roll, then I think it's kind of a problem. It's also like a personal problem too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, because you don't know if the other person in the academy is going to be cool with it or not. Like, you know, some
I think it's
people-
like a personal, like a courtesy to it's like kind of like washing your gi and
yeah.
I don't know, not training when you have open sores or something like that. Like, it's not that bad, but it's definitely not sensitive to, you know, if you have a bunch of reprobates that, you know, that will go off and train together in the corner, so be it. But, you know, the mom who's trying to come in and train and take the class one time because, you know, Junior's taking the class and she wants to know what it's all about. She may or may not appreciate that kind of disregard. But I mean, on the other hand, I do admire somebody who, you know, they get a couple drinks in them or smoke, and then they want to come train because that's pretty much the last thing I want to do. You know, in the rare occasions that I actually do drink, I'm never like, oh man, I got that buzz on now. I'm ready to go train. You know, come on, Kev, meet me at the gym. Let's train. No, you're never gonna get that phone call.
Not from you.
Hmm?
Not from you.
There are probably some other people who.
Other people.
It's kind of like drunk dialing, but what would it be? Drunk rolling?
Mm,
Whatever you know what I mean, the equivalent.
yeah. Drunk jits.
I don't think it's cool.
Yeah, not during normal academy hours.
I mean,
I've done it with friends. After hours.
I don't think Have I ever rolled drunk? I don't think I ever have.
It's fun. I usually hurt myself more than
I don't even like being drunk, to be honest. You know, like, because then I get a hangover, and I'm like, it's just like I have a big headache for a day and a half.
I read something or saw something about some powerlifters who would, like right before their big max lifts, take a shot, and it gives you an extra quick burn of energy for like that one thing you gotta do.
Yeah, I think that might be true.
And it's true, like it provides calories for like a solid, like 45-minute window.
Well, I wonder, the thing is, people have performance anxiety, and, they tense up, before a match sometimes. They get too, and I wonder if you took a shot like that, just to release those inhibitions. I was watching the post-fight conference for Hidalgo, and it looked like he was emotional, like he was really upset.
Yeah.
He got killed. Look, I don't think getting beaten by Keenan is embarrassing because he's really like at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
But in the fashion, like I think everybody expected him to, to have a war at least for some period of time. And he was saying, he just was caught unawares, and I think he was so fixated on like collar tie, I wonder maybe if he had just had taken a shot beforehand, been a little looser, maybe, you know what I mean? I definitely hit the point where I'm like, I could take the shot right here, or I could do this, or I could come up for a sweep, but then I'm like, I don't know, and then by the time you think of it, it's done, you can't do it anymore. So if you're like a little bit tipsy, you just go, like there's no more inhibitions.
It's true, but the thing is like...
But you're also sloppy as hell.
No, not necessarily.
Just one, if you just had one, right?
Just like a long swig, you'll do it. But the issue is like you are right, it will give you that feeling that you just can make good decisions no matter what. Like everything's fine. You lose that feeling of inhibition.
That's why people get drunk and get into fights in bars, right? They're like, I can take that dude. I don't care if he's 7 foot tall. I feel good right now.
Yeah, well, there is also the increased risk of aggression you have to watch out for, which is like, might not be that
increased risk of aggression?
if you're rolling with friends and things can be chill, sure, but like, alcohol is known to make people violent. So you have to take that into the account. And also, like, I feel like if you want to be successful, you should train in a way that you can train sustainably every day. And while drinking before training is a fun experience under, proper precautions, that is something that might potentially become a habit if you enjoy it a lot.
Let me ask you this question. There's a whole like kind of subculture within jiu-jitsu now. 10th Planet is a major proponent of getting high, and not just with marijuana, but with other substances.
There are other substances?
There are other substances. What's your take? We've been kind of semi-joking about alcohol, and I don't think that's ever going to be, maybe Jeff Glover will take a shot before he goes, and a puff, but, what's your opinion about, rolling, like, I think, I see the appeal of, like, rolling, occasionally, right? I could see, like, that might be fun, but, like, habitually all the time, like, hey, we're gonna roll, we're gonna smoke up beforehand. What's your take? Like, these two things just go together.
Depends. Yeah, I've done both. I've been both. You should proceed with caution.
Don't look at me. I'm not proceeding at all. Maybe.
I don't know. It's.
Some people say, like in the NFL, a lot of players will say that, like, or there have been interviews where they say like smoking marijuana is actually like it's a medicinal. It helps them relax. It helps them recover. You know, they would rather take that than whatever the painkillers or whatever the other drugs are that the teen doctors are trying to give to them. And it's a way for them to like, you know, it's like a medicinal thing, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess that could be true. But if it was like, hey, I take this because it's almost like a medical, like I use it as a painkiller or whatever, that seems like semi-legit to me. You know, I think it's probably better for you than doing like mass amounts of like Advil, which is has been my general go-to.
Yeah. But Advil can be safely used. Like, it's just that you can
Not,
also,
I mean,
you
it
also
can
kill
be, but
yourself
not
on
at
it.
the level, like for me, like if I have to take Advil, I'm taking 4, right? Like very rarely am I like, oh, I need some Advil, and I take 1.
Yeah.
Or the recommended dose. I'm
but
like,
you know-
I need a lot of Advil.
But you know
I'm
not
in
to
pain.
repeat that over and over and over and over and over again in like a short time.
It can be a habit. Advil can be just as much of a habit forming habit. Crutch, if you will, right? I mean, I think I've taken a lot of Advil. Like right now I don't take a lot of it because I know that like it would be bad. Like I'd have to take it every day.
Mhm.
I would have to take it every day, maybe twice a day, in order to like maintain the pain relief that I would need. So I just kind of eat the pain and try to be careful, not to tweak it too much.
Mhm.
But here's my maybe make a more pointed question, which is, I've heard people say like, hey, this helps me roll better, I feel more relaxed.
Yeah. That's true.
Like I'm not as stressed. Like some people have like a lot of anxiety just about getting on the mat.
That's true.
And so they say, hey, it's kind of like removes those inhibitions. And but my thing is like, for me, I always thought of jiu-jitsu. Yes, there's a lot of stress and strain, and
Mhm.
part of what I value from jiu-jitsu is the ability to cope with that stress and strain, as opposed to removing. And and I've had that kind of anxiety, right? I've had to have been, scared to come to class, not because of any like particularly bad thing, but just like the stress of being in class.
There's anxiety. I don't think.
So I never really considered like, okay, I'm going to smoke up, or I'm going to drink, or I'm going to do something else that's going to remove that anxiety. And I think that's actually a valuable thing about jiu-jitsu is like, I tell the kids, like, you should always face your problems, right? Like, face your problem.
I mean, I used to, and would still do, enjoy marijuana before rolling. What I would not recommend is doing it before class and technical application and any sort of time when you're really supposed to be like, not just learning, but you should be social with people too. And I think the problem with smoking before class a lot of the times is it gets people too far inside their own head, and it really makes it difficult for them to connect to other people in the same way that normal people, like sober people, tend to vibe with.
Yes.
Right, and sometimes it works if you go into a den that's entirely potheads and you go in high and everyone's vibing on the same level. But if you're at an academy that everyone just got off of work and everyone's like super normal, and you walk in super anxious that everyone thinks you're high. In reality, like no one cares, but you're thinking about things that have nothing to do with what's going on.
But you might say and do some weird things that people will be put off by.
Yeah, and it might not be bad, but like you just might be the weird guy who looks at the floor too much, right? And I've been that guy, and it's not that fun, right? Like, and it's fine. I also think that it can make remembering things really difficult. I used to have trouble. I would like watch someone, the instructor, teach something, and then I would pair off, and I would not remember what we were doing, and so I would be like, okay, you go first, and then I let them do it, and then I'd pay attention.
You're just spacing.
Yeah, you're just
You
like
can't focus.
My train of thought is just like so many different railroads, and it's just really difficult to learn and retain information. However, as far as developing a sense of intuition, the ability to learn how to push through discomfort, right? Just like getting used to, I don't know, it helps you, just like by clearing away other stuff or however it kind of affects your mind. I think it's easier to get into that state of mindfulness when you're rolling with a person. But that also, I think, takes practice. I never started smoking or anything until I was at least blue belt, I believe.
I mean, I can't think of a single time where I was like getting used to, you know, the pressure or this discomfort and thought to myself, you know what, if I were just high right now, this would all be
Well, what I always liked was I would get really anxious while smoking, like to the point where I'd learn how to calm myself down. And then I would go into the jiu-jitsu environment and have that on top of that. And like, by having the combination of the two types of anxiety, I like really learned how to stay calm when things were extra discomforting. And that's not always a good thing, but it definitely affected how I go about doing jiu-jitsu, I think. And it will have an effect on you.
Now, do you think that carries over, like when you're sober? Does the training that?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. There is a mild transition. Like if you stop or your brain is like needs to catch up to what it wasn't producing, and if you do go into a period of sobriety, it will feel like things aren't working for a while, probably for a couple weeks, but everything kicks back in after a while. You get that nice pink cloud period, honeymoon phase, and then things level out, and it's normal again. Because your body, like, you still did all the movements, right? Like, you still did all of the things. Like, it's still there. You've still done the proper conditioning necessary. It's just now your awareness is different than it had been. I don't know, sometimes it's good to break things up. Like, if you do it every day, though, like, it kind of becomes pointless. But, because there are, as with anything, like diminishing returns.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, if you do it every day, it just gradually goes away. Sparingly is probably best, but you know, live your life, do what you want. You'll probably go through phases.
See, I would say that you have to be, you know, when you're young, you know, you can kind of get away with this stuff a lot easier because you can always chalk it up to like youthful indiscretion, but you know, there are consequences to, you know, even to something like nowadays, you know, marijuana is legal, you know, in a lot of places, including California, but there are still consequences to it, right? Like, there was a story a while ago where someone was denied a gun license because they had not that they had ever gotten in trouble or whatever, but they just had a medical marijuana card, right? They were totally legit under the law, and then they couldn't. And I don't know what the full scope of that is. I don't know, like, you know, if you're a lawyer like I am, right? Like some government jobs will probably be harder, if not impossible, to get. Depending on who knows what factors, but there are professional kind of consequences. You know, maybe you have a job that is, you know, doesn't require you to have drug tests or whatever. But if you want a job that does require you to have, you know, to be drug tested, you know, like, or you like if you're an athlete and then you have to go somewhere and you have to get drug tested, you know, that's going to be an awful shame, right? So you have to make. I'm not passing judgment on anybody. I'm saying like you need to be mindful of, you know, what the long-term goals and consequences are.
You should be aware of what your day-to-day activities are. Like, it's one thing to, you know, meet up with friends on the weekends, smoke and train, but if it's like, if you're doing it, or if you have to do it before anything, even jiu-jitsu or any sort of activity, you know, it's probably time to reflect on your priorities.
See, nobody really starts off just smoking every day, right? People smoke once, then twice, then, you know, and then it kind of just gathers momentum and becomes a habit. I don't know how habit-forming marijuana is compared to tobacco. My sense is it's less, but I don't know if that's true. But, you know, it's one of those things where if you have I think some people have a personality that's more prone to, and I think you should be mindful of that, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but then there's also like everyone has that FOMO.
I get into habits, right? I have bad habits. There was a time where I was going over to that gas station convenience store every day,
That was my bad habit. You're just highlighting my bad habit.
No, that was mine. For a while, and I would go over there and I would get a cup of coffee, and then I'd probably get like, I don't know what it was, like a cupcake or something, you know? And, you know, like once, twice, 3 times, that's okay. And then all of a sudden I'm doing it 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and then you put on a lot of weight, right? And you wake up and you're like, shit, I gained 15 pounds,
Yeah.
right? And that's...
Well, what happened to me was I was eating 7-Eleven food every day. And I was like, that's it. I'm going to not eat 7-Eleven food anymore.
So then you went over to Rotten Robbie's.
No, I like lost 10 pounds
Yeah.
too soon, and because I didn't realize how significant of a portion my caloric intake was coming.
I mean,
from
that stuff
7-Eleven.
is highly caloric. Like even like I didn't realize like those little capsules of like creamer,
Yeah.
like that's like 50 calories a pop.
Yeah.
Those are not good for, and they're like chemical. It's not even real sugar.
Yeah, I stopped drinking coffee, and I realized like how much half and half my body was living on.
About half.
It was
About
a lot,
half of
yeah.
your.
Well, because I would have like 3 cups of coffee, and it would be like a 1-to-1 ratio of coffee and half.
Yeah, because the coffee's terrible in those places, so you got to dump in a lot of creamer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so good. Anyway, my liver's sad.
I was actually, speaking of livers, I was just watching, Iris was watching, which means that I had to watch it. Not true. But it was about liver transplants.
Oh yeah.
Super cool, but it also made me think like, I need to be nicer to my liver. I'm pretty nice to my liver anyway.
Well,
but
because if your liver goes, then your kidneys are going to start to go.
Everything's
and
bad.
everything else goes.
they said like, you know, I used to think like liver is just a filter, but the surgeon was like,
It does so much.
it does like 150 separate processes.
It's like all the
Regulates
metabolic
everything in
regulation,
your body, all your
daily
hormones.
energy. Hormones, right?
Um,
Bile production, or is that
yeah, I think it's bile.
gallbladder? No.
No, I think it does. I think it does pretty much a little bit of everything. But then you know the surgery is like crazy complicated.
Yeah, but isn't the liver supposed to be the organ that's able to
Regenerate, yes. But so they show it. It's not like you could just like lop off, you know,
like
40% of the liver and be like, okay, we're good.
Just make some space.
You have these. They showed this. It was really cool. The liver has like all these bile ducts, but then also blood vessels. And so the surgeon has to cut along these blood vessels very, very, very carefully.
Gross.
And so, like, that is,
Is this for the transplant?
yes.
Yeah, gross.
So, I mean, it's amazing, right? It's just amazing. But, like, they showed this 3D model of a casting of somebody's liver, like how intricate all the bile ducts and the blood vessels are.
This is like
It's crazy. It's not. Yeah. It's like this, but like times 100.
Like a symbiote going on to Spider-Man.
Yeah, but a lot more. And it's just amazing that somebody sits there and these surgeries last like 10 hours.
Yeah.
Like and that's just to take out the little bit.
Yeah. Well, you gotta have like small vessels, right? And then you just gotta get all those, then you gotta reconnect the main ones.
Yeah, but other than that, it's totally easy.
But like even the big ones, they're really small and they're
Yeah.
Ugh.
So
Well, thank
it's
you.
pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. I mean, they show you that she has these glasses with these magnifying things like on them, and it's like microscopes, you know, like they go out from her glasses another 3 inches. The magnification is so high. It's funny too because she talks crazy shit when she's operating. She's like yelling at people.
Those are called loops, aren't they?
What?
The magnifying glasses.
I don't know. Whatever they are, they're hardcore. So.
Oh. Are we allowed to talk about psychedelics?
About doing psychedelics while you're training?
Uh-huh.
I mean, if you want to share your personal experiences, by all means. I wouldn't know.
I don't know how much sharing should happen. How do you feel? Let's figure out how you feel about it first. How do you feel about it? What are your thoughts on it? Do you have the same thoughts with THC as with like mushrooms and LSD?
I mean, I don't really have the experience with those things, so I can't really, say specifically. But
if you found out that I came in on mushrooms and rolled with you, would you be upset or would you be like,
I mean, if I didn't know, like why would I be upset? If you're all loopy and spacey and doing crazy stuff, I might be like annoyed with you.
So
Or I might just take that opportunity if I can to like choke you and put you to sleep.
I guess my
For
question
fun.
is, in your recollection, has there been any time where you have suspected me to be?
I mean, you're just a weird person, so I mean, I never can be completely sure what you're doing. But
So you're saying never? You've never suspected?
I mean, I always know what I'm saying is I'm always suspecting.
That's fair too.
I mean, I think. I mean, me personally, I don't really do anything. My jiu-jitsu is already terrible enough that I don't feel like doing anything else to make it even worse than it already is. I mean, I don't have any strong feelings if the person doesn't. If you're not stinky and you're not like nutty or doing like inappropriate things, I don't really care. I mean, look, there's people that have to take all sorts of drugs, like all sorts of. Like my sister takes anti-anxiety. Well, I don't know if she still does, but she did it, because whatever. And I don't think there's any shame or there shouldn't be any stigmas attached. I'm sure there are stigmas, but like I don't share them, right?
Not publicly.
No, I mean I just don't think that. I mean, if you need to take something to manage your mood and it's under the care of a doctor, then that's fine.
It's rude to shame someone for their mental illness.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something. Look, I mean, it's just, if there's a chemical imbalance and you need to address that through medicine, then I don't think that's any different than someone like me who's like, my whatever hurts, and I'm going to take some drugs so I can carry on with my day. It's essentially the same to me, but and if you're self-medicating in a more or less responsible way that doesn't affect other people, but if you are abusing, the substance.
What do you mean?
If you're using the substance in a way that's either causing harm to yourself or to others, then I think that is a problem. I mean, I would be concerned for somebody if I noticed they were behaving or acting in a way that was self-destructive or self-harming. And by the same token, if that person, I mean, if you're not really caring about yourself, you're probably not so concerned with other people either. We're in a training environment where everyone should trust each other and,
Do you think if someone seems to not care about other people, maybe it should be addressed that they're not caring for themselves?
I mean, it can go any sort of way. I mean, I think people at least should care for their training partners, and I think other people, I mean, the nice thing about jiu-jitsu is that people, I think, generally care about each other. I mean, they should, right? And so...
is it the person who is using the psychedelics responsibility to disclose their usage upon rolling with
No, I mean, I think that's like a privacy. But, I mean, again, like, look, if you want it to be private and not be an issue, then you have to do it responsibly in a way that other people aren't like,
but
what do you want, dude?
Wouldn't responsibly not be like, hey man, like I took an ape, like do you want to or not?
I mean, I think that's a personal decision, maybe for every person, right? For every individual, but
I think it's like,
I wouldn't be like, hey, you need to sign this disclosure form. Tell me what you took before you walked in here. That's really, unless it becomes a problem, right? That's none of my business. Once it becomes a problem, then it's everyone's business.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have some sort of freak, incident because you OD'd on something.
Yeah.
If you crap yourself because that's a hygiene issue. Whatever. I'm just making stuff up. If you're throwing up because you're having some weird reaction.
Well, the thing about drugs is like, unless they're prescribed by a doctor, you can't be for sure.
Even if it is prescribed by a doctor, you can't be for sure.
Weird stuff can happen.
But look, there's like if someone had an allergic reaction to something that their doctor gave them or prescribed for them, and they came in, I don't expect them to tell me what that is, right? But they should go back to their doctor and say, hey, listen, this is a problem, and make an adjustment if that's possible. If you're constantly on the mat and you can't control your bodily or your mental functions, then the mat is not the place for you, right? Like you should go somewhere else and deal with whatever it is that ails you. And when you get all better, you're more than welcome to come back. So I don't see it as, if people are being responsible and it's not affecting other people, like, okay, I don't have a problem.
It's hard because there aren't any really clear lines with like drug use and how it affects yourself and other people because it's so insidious, right? Like I can take.
That's why I say just say no.
It's just like, just once it doesn't hurt me or other people, but like at what point can I be like, okay, this
Look,
is
I'm not going to judge anybody. Everyone's in their own, some people, but for me, like I'm not like anti-alcohol or, whatever, like once in a while. I think moderate use is fine, but
you know, I don't personally, you know, take any drugs, and not to say that that's, other than Advil, a lot of Advil.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, I don't pretend like I'm the, you know, a saint, and you know, everyone else should be judged by my standards, you know, for myself. So, you know, like I said, if you can do it in a way that it does not directly affect, if you can't do that, then you need to re-examine your life choices, because they're gonna, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of one of the better definitions of addiction that I've heard. It's like when it starts interfering with your life, you know, that's a problem, right? People don't want to be around you.
But like, do you only address it when it gets
No.
to that point? Like,
No. Well, I mean, you might have to, but that's not when you should address it.
we need like a pre-addiction where it's like, hey,
You know, the problem is
here's
that
a
I
good
think a
time
lot
to-
of the people who are having issues, you know, have issues with or without alcohol, or whatever the drug is.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I said, nobody starts off drinking like every day, twice a day, right? You start off with like a little bit, and then it kind of gathers momentum over time.
How do you feel about people using jujitsu as escapism?
Perfect. I 100% approve. No, but it can be like, addiction isn't necessarily a drug, right? You can become addicted to jujitsu or whatever the activity is, to
But
the
if-
point that it interferes with your ability to carry on your everyday life.
But if it's interfering with your life, is it cool if you keep training 4 hours a day, or like?
No, that's silly.
Do you find
Like
help?
if you can't pay your rent, and you can't get food, right? And you like your family, like whatever, you start missing like appointments and you know, like important events in your friends and your family's lives because you just can't miss training. You know, like I think it could be a problem, right? I mean, I think you could be probably addicted to almost anything. If it's interfering with your life, then it's a problem. You could be addicted. There are people that are addicted to work. I knew a lot of them. You know, and it interferes with your relationships and your social life and your personal life, and you work so hard that you don't make time for anything else in your life. That's harmful.
What if I'm addicted to push-ups?
Well, eventually you'll be like David Goggins, who just like does so many push-ups until he tears all the muscles out or something. That would be bad. I don't approve of that. Everything in moderation.
Including moderation?
No, moderation to the extreme. Extreme moderation. That's why my motto is pahada every once in a while.
I like radical moderation, personally.
Radical moderation.
Yeah, or moderate radicalism, I'm not sure.
I mean, everything should be. You gotta strive to have a healthy balance in your life.
Yeah, I think it's important to have an ultimate goal, like a life aim.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a life aim. It can just be a, where do I want to be in 1 year?
But like 1 year, that's very short-sighted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then you could make a 5-year plan with 1 year checkpoints, and then you can make 6-month checkpoints. You can make a 10-year plan if you wanted to.
But like,
I think everyone should have a 5-year plan.
how do you determine a life plan?
You gotta set some goals. You gotta say, what do you want out of your life?
What do I want out of my life?
What do you want? What kind of life do you want to have?
This one.
Okay. I mean, then you're check your goal off. You're done. You've arrived. So
Nice.
then the question is, how do you maintain that life?
It's just,
Because everything changes, right? Nothing is going to stay the same. Like for example, right? Like you could say, hey, I love being in New York City at Henzo Gracie Academy, training with John Danaher and Gordon Ryan and Gary. I love those guys. I get to train with them every day. This is perfect. I mean, how could I have been a better? This is like jiu-jitsu, like heaven. And then the next week, they all moved to Puerto Rico.
yeah.
Right? Now, there's still a lot of great things about jiu-jitsu and training at Henzo's, but like now, if that was like, this is what I love, like training with these guys all the time,
Yeah.
well, unless you're able to move to Puerto Rico, you're pretty much out, right? Like things change. Life changes. So then it's like, how do you're
But like, would you really base your life goal on training with Gordon Ryan? That's a weird life goal.
I'm just making that up. That's arbitrary, right? Like, you could say like, hey, I want to go to law school and I want to practice at a big firm.
Why?
What do you mean why? Because I enjoy practicing law, and
But
I
is
want to
that-
get paid for
But
it.
is that enjoyment, and is that like part of an overall life goal, or is that like you just wanted to do law?
I mean, I'm just making this up hypothetically. Like I said, like some people will say, I want to do this because it will allow me to make the most money in the shortest amount of time.
Well, I'm asking about you personally.
Me personally, why did I want to?
Yeah.
Why did I want to be a lawyer, or why did I want to go to law school?
Well, wouldn't you want to go to law school to be a lawyer?
Not necessarily.
But
You go to law school and do other things.
was that the case? And
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much knew when I went to law school that I was going to be a lawyer because
Yeah.
that was the way
That was
that you
the
made
reason.
money to pay for law school,
yeah.
right? I was taking out a lot of debt and I wouldn't have gone if I couldn't get a good job at the end of it. That would pay off that debt.
Yeah.
But for me, I think it was a realization that I enjoyed a lot of the things that lawyers do, right?
Mhm.
I was headed like more in an academic. Like I wanted to be like
Professor
a
Rich.
literature professor. And then what I realized is when I was doing my master's degree was that, well, you worked really hard, nobody really cared about what you were doing, and you didn't get paid anything. And it would take a really long time to even land yourself a tenured position. And to do that in that environment at the time, probably still today, I would have to do a lot of like types of studies that I didn't really enjoy. So I was like, how do I take the things that I really enjoy? Like I like helping people, I like having an impact, I like writing, I like researching, I like arguing, I like the performance kind of thing of being up in front of, like I like being in a class and talking to my class. So I said, I think being a lawyer is a pretty good fit, and you can make a pretty good living on top of all that. So it's not like, like the things that I enjoyed about being, about studying literature kind of would map out onto being a lawyer. You're still like, as a litigator, you're kind of a professional writer, right? But you get paid, and you're helping people directly, which is why they pay you, right? When you are a literature professor, you're not really helping anybody, and therefore you don't get paid, right? And your impact and your influence are like zero. You know what I'm saying? And your compensation is.
But like, what
commensurate.
if your only contribution, your only help, is that you're helping other people make money? Like you're not like making a more concrete contribution, right?
Every time you help a company make money, you're helping them employ somebody, right? You're helping them invest in something. They're the company that you're helping. I mean, a lot of times as a lawyer, you'd often get into the kind of the mindset of like, it's just about money. It's just about money, right? But it's not really just about money. Like I did patent litigation, and in that case, you're dealing with like inventors, right? And so it's important for people to have an incentive to invent things, to patent things, right? Because those things I was doing, cardiovascular stents, helping people survive like heart attacks or prevent heart attacks. And, the patent litigation is just between two giant corporations, and it's just about like, hey, you owe us this money if you've infringed on our patent. But, if enough companies lose enough of these patent cases, or enough companies are able to get away with infringing on patents, then the financial incentives for people to actually invent things are diminished, right? And then all the people that are employed by commercializing these inventions, that gets diminished, right? So, like when you help a company, you're not just helping the legal fiction of a company, right? You're helping all the people that they employ and will employ, and people and all the investments that they've made and will make in the future, right? You're making that a function. You're helping them to function, right? In essentially a fair way. Now you could be on the other side of that equation too, and be defending the company that is allegedly infringing, and there's a benefit to just having litigation over these questions. There's a benefit to having these questions get resolved by courts, because then that lays down a blueprint for people that are coming after you, or maybe concurrent litigations in other cases. So I think you are having a real public impact. Your footprint is much wider. But even if you take it down to the level of an individual, like I had cases involving, people applying for state benefits, right? I mean, and from my end, it was almost always people trying to cheat the state because I was working for the state, right? And so, there's a limit to the amount of money that the state has to distribute out to citizens and provide services, and so you want to make sure that people are not getting paid when they shouldn't be getting paid or getting benefits when they shouldn't be getting benefits, right? So, I mean, it's just a more immediate impact. I had prison litigation, like keeping people in jail. That could be a good thing.
Could be a
right?
good thing.
Some of the people, I promise you that some of the people that I kept in jail, well, all the people I kept in jail, I was more than convinced personally they should all remain in jail for as long as possible. So, you do some good you at least, I won't say that all lawyers do good in the world all the time. It's definitely not true. You could certainly practice law in a way that is detrimental to society as a whole and actually do a lot of damage. But, that's a personal decision everyone has to make, I guess, about what kind of lawyer they want to be, or can be, for that matter.
Did you ever watch The Wire?
No.
There was a scene where, I forget the character, he was in court, and they were like admonishing him for selling drugs.
Is it a lawyer selling drugs?
No, the lawyer is admonishing the drug dealer for selling drugs. And he was like, hey, or the drug dealer was like, hey, I'm just playing my part in this whole game thing, right? I'm the drug dealer, I have my role, I'm contributing, I provide the drugs and I do my thing. You're also playing your part in this game.
Yes.
You just have a different role. You're still profiting off of the selling of illegal drugs, just in a different sort of way, right?
Was this a criminal defense lawyer, or was this the
I think
prosecutor?
that was the prosecutor, because they were accusing him of, I think, selling drugs or killing someone or something.
I mean, prosecutors in general make such little amounts of money
But not
that
even
I don't think that's a. Now, that's not to say that there isn't a whole industry or group of industries that do profit from crime. Like the private prison industry does definitely profit from crime, right?
But even if you don't make a high salary, right? It's still a stepping stone in your career where you're kind of using another person's unfortunate circumstances to advance your own livelihood. I'm not.
That is,
it's like the far end of the how one could interpret it.
You have to. You have to have a profit motive for people to do a job.
Why?
Because otherwise, they're not going to do a job. They need to pay.
I guess across the board, yeah, I believe that's true. But personally.
Well, I'll give you an example, right? In my first year as a lawyer, I did a pro bono case involving a person who was in jail for attempted murder, right? He had been convicted, tried and convicted. He was actually one of the rare ones that went to trial. It was a great opportunity for me, right? We talk about building your career, right? I got a great experience, arguing as my first argument by myself, my first brief that I wrote pretty much by myself in an appellate court, right? And I would not, as a general rule, as a first-year associate, ever be allowed to write my own brief and represent and argue that case in a real court on behalf of a paying client, right? So it was a professional career development opportunity for me. And what is the defendant, was not paying because it's pro bono. So, but what does he get out of the deal? Well, he gets a person who is, look,
Trying his best.
how am I just trying my best? Which, when you're handling 200 cases, right? If you're a public defender, or you're a public defender doing appellate work, you might have 40, 50, 60, 100, 500 cases. I don't know. I've never done it. But I did public defense on regular trial work for a little bit, but the people have such a huge docket that they can't focus. And it was funny because I had a guy who was supervising me who worked for one of these companies, not companies, but nonprofits who did this work. And his attitude was, he was basically like, hey, you know, don't worry about this so much. Don't put too much into it because we lose all these cases.
Yeah.
It's like such a tiny percentage. And I was like, I didn't really understand that at the time. I was like, what are you talking about? Because like at the firm, like you do your best in every case because people are paying you a shit ton of money. And if you don't do your best, win or lose, you're not gonna have any more clients, right? So, but you know, now with, you know, some more perspective, I understand, like if you are constantly getting hammered in court and you're losing 95% of your cases, at some point you're like, I'm not gonna focus, I'm just gonna kind of glare, you know, like unless there's something that really pops out at me that's really glaring error. I could win this one. The rest of them you don't really pay much attention to, right? You just kind of go through the motions. So this guy got me, right? I'm a fairly smart, if inexperienced lawyer. And like
With
this,
something to prove.
well, I mean, it's like I want to win,
Yeah.
right? Like it wasn't. Nobody was like, "Hey, don't worry about it." To me, like we don't care.
Yeah.
You know, the partner who gave me the case or let me take the case was like, the firm is investing in this case. We expect you.
Yeah.
And they were good, right? Some firms will talk about pro bono, and like they'll just be like, "Hey, just do that real quick and like let's get back to real work."
Yeah.
And my firm was a lot better than that. And they were like, "Our name, the firm's name is going to be on this brief, and you're representing the firm, and we expect you to provide the same, if not, well, I guess the same because we always do the best, but for our clients. But you know, this is a client of the firm, and you should treat them as such. You know, like
Try.
our professional reputation, your professional representation or reputation is riding on this guy, on this case.
Yeah.
Do your best." And so I did. And you know, like I won't say it was because I was such a brilliant lawyer that I got him off, but you know, he got a new trial. Actually, he ordered him a new trial, but then the DA was like, "Forget it." I mean, he'd already been in jail for several years. They didn't want to retry him because the witnesses were who knows going to win. But
Sure. And like in that case, it was mutually beneficial, and it was.
And not only was it mutually
Nice.
beneficial, but I remember when I went to argument. So the issue in the case was that there was a juror who said that she couldn't be impartial. Right? She made there's a voir dire where they question the jurors, and they ask you, is there any, and they go through a whole list of questions about why you may or may not be able to be fair in judging the case. And her response was, well, I don't know what it was, her father or her uncle was a police officer, and she's like, I just think that police officers are more likely than not to tell the truth. Right? And the judge was like, yeah, whatever, no problem. And then there was another juror, and who knows if they're just trying to get off the jury, but this is what they said. And the other juror was like, I don't speak English. Right? And he's like, yeah, whatever, good enough.
Yeah.
And
You said that real well. Good job.
yeah, I mean, you understood my question, so enough to answer it. So anyway, when I go up in the court, it was funny because I basically didn't have to say anything. Stood up and did my little 2 minutes, and they were like, the judges, there's 5 judges when you argue these cases, or 4 judges, I'm sorry. And they just basically were like, yeah, sit down. And I was like, shit, I think I lost this case. And then the prosecutor was a young, ADA. She was not the original trial attorney for the state or whatever. She stands up and they just light into her. They just rip her. And they're like, this is clear, this was a huge error, and you need to go back and tell your boss that this cannot happen. This was a clear error, and you invited that error. This was very disingenuous. Your office should have been, basically saying these jurors should be, they should be excused, right? And they were really mad at them, and they were like, the next time this happens, we will ask for your boss to come down here, and we'll tell if you're going to keep doing this, then we'll deliver the message personally to him or her. I forget. I think it was him at that time. So, there's an effect, a positive effect on the criminal justice system at that point because the prosecutor is being called to account. Basically saying yeah, you can get away with this once in a while because maybe the person isn't getting a good lawyer to make the argument, to spot the issue and make the argument, and has the money to because these guys don't have money, right? They can't afford to have a good lawyer. And in a lot of cases, it's unless one of these organizations picks up their case, they may not even appeal. So, or prosecute the appeal. They may file a notice of appeal, but they may not be able to follow up on it. And so there's a societal good, I would say,
you know, just in terms of the criminal justice system, is like at least working a little bit better, just that incrementally, a little bit better. And yeah, that helps me in my career. We all win. It's a win, right? There's nothing. Am I making money? I mean, I would have made the same amount of money that I would have made if I hadn't ever taken that case, because I was on salary with the firm.
True.
If anything, the firm is losing money by putting me. It's not like we got this huge press release win. It wasn't like Rich Jackson is the hero of the city because he won this case. It was like totally anonymous. Nobody cared. But in that little corner of criminal law, in that courtroom, this point had been made very clearly to the district attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So
you get that win, and you feel like you're fighting a good fight on the side of justice.
I mean, just making the process better.
Yeah.
I don't know about justice and all that. I mean, that guy could have totally been guilty. I don't know. That wasn't my job to determine that. But by making sure the process is fair and that the DA has to go through all the proper steps and can't cut corners, that improves the justice system just that little tiny bit.
It's like, I agree with you. I just feel, I don't know.
I know you can totally take it the other way, right? You could be a prosecutor who all you care about is, your conviction rate and your career.
Well,
and so you're willing to just throw people in jail because, hey, my prosecution rate my conviction rate is so high that I keep getting promotions. And that's a problem.
When you work for a group, how do you know that their intentions are what they say they are?
By their actions.
But if most companies, they do good, and they can all argue that they do contribute to society, but the main priority of companies, in my limited
making
awareness
money,
of things,
profits.
is to profit, right?
Yes. That is their reason for existing, is to make money. That is why a company exists.
Is making money
at least not
always,
for profit.
I mean, is that necessarily always a positive thing? Is making money always good because you can contribute it back into society?
This is like a shifting debate, right? Like, depending on when and who you ask at what companies, some companies take a longer view and say, hey, we could make more money if we did things a little differently, but we think in the long run that by making a little bit less money, we can sustain our company over a longer term.
Well, that's still the goal is to sustain the company, not to do good, not to do things.
Sustaining the company does work at good in society.
You could argue that, but does it?
It might not.
I mean, it seems like, I don't know.
We haven't figured out a better way. I'm not going to sit here and be like capitalism always works.
It seems like
you have to give people an incentive to work hard.
We're gonna build this great money-making machine, and then it's also gonna have a secondary function of helping people out when it can. But
some companies. Look. If I'm a car company, my objective is to make a lot of cars that are popular with people. And how do I do that? I make a car that's a certain quality that appeals to the most number of people at a certain price point.
But
right? That helps people move around.
But
get to their jobs.
Is your goal to sell cars, or is your goal to make a good car that can improve people's lives?
Yes.
There. I don't know.
Yes. If you want to just go out and do good in the world, if that's your goal, then there's a vehicle for that, right? You can start a not-for-profit. You can have a charity.
But even then, it's you're still kind of profiting. You're living. You're continuing to exist.
That's the whole point of work, right? I need to put food into my belly, and I have
how
a
much
family,
food does your belly need?
My belly needs a lot of food, and it's getting late, so I'm getting extra hungry. But if you want people to work hard, you got to compensate them. That's how it works.
I feel like
nobody wants to work really hard for nothing.
But how much hard work and how much compensation do you need?
All of it.
All of it, forever?
Everybody's different. I can't answer that.
No,
everybody's different. Some people feel like they won't roll out of bed if they don't have making $1 million that day, right? They just have so much money, they don't care. Other people are like, I will always want to make money, right? And some people will say, hey, I make enough money, I'm good, I'm comfortable, this is the job I want. This, or maybe not, but I'm still I'm doing fine, it's satisfying some other requirement or desire in my life, okay. You know, everyone is different, is motivated. Some people are motivated by money at all, and they go off and they join the Peace Corps, or they become priests, or, you know, they, you know, I don't know, become Diogenes and hang out like a dog. I don't know, but you want to become a monk, you could go become a monk, you know? I don't know. You want to go join the military? I would say people in the military are motivated by money, primarily.
Yeah, I thought about military when I was younger, but I didn't want to kill myself when I was older, so that was...
You know, so I mean, everyone's different, but they're, you know, like if you're running a company for money, then...
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to equate, like, contributing to society and generating profit, because, like, hey, like, look, people obviously seem to need this, so here's the
Well,
stuff.
none of this stuff gets made for free, right? I can't be like, if I'm GM, I can't go to my suppliers and be like, hey guys, I'm just trying to make this world a better place. Can you just make this world a better place too and help me and just send this stuff to me for free?
Yeah, but
Because they're gonna be like, no dudes, we need to make money too.
it's just like it's becoming so weirdly meta, and it's like...
I don't understand. People have worked to make money and feed themselves and maybe put a little extra down, you know, for the next generation, for
I
forever.
just don't know how long I could continue working at a place where the justification in my head for it was, you know, I'm kind of contributing to this company's survival so it can contribute to employing people so that other people can live. It's like, it's very like...
What do you think you're doing here?
It's just very hands off, you know, like versus like, I get to see someone get better. And
Well, some people need that immediate thing, right? That's why they become doctors, right? If you want to see, or nurses, or you know, veterinary assistants, or whatever, you want to see that immediate, you know, gratification of like, as a jiu-jitsu instructor, we want to see our students get better, right? We work. It's not like if you're in finance and you sit behind a desk, you know, the measure of your success are the numbers that go across your screen, and then wind up in your ATM account, you know, or whatever. That's your measure. You don't. People who work in finance aren't like. They're not really. They don't care about who they're helping. Like that's not what they're getting out of their day to day. They're getting more zeros at the end of their bank account, right? That's what motivates them, I assume, right? If you really care about people and you need that kind of immediate kind of feedback of like I am doing good in the world, then you become something where you are more directly involved with your client. Nothing wrong with that.
I don't know.
Some people don't want to have anything to do with their clients. They become researchers, right? Like they deal with test tubes all day.
I want to be a hermit. Can I be a hermit?
Not a lot of money in hermitine. But if you like live stream it and make it like some sort of like, you know, here's the thing, there's a famous book, I think it was Down and Out in New York, or Down and Out in Paris, or Down and Out in London. I want to say it was George Orwell who did this. But essentially, he became homeless for, I don't know what the period of time was, and maybe 6 months or a year, and then he wrote about his experience as a homeless person, you know, in London.
Was he really homeless, or was he like, he had family somewhere?
I mean, I don't know. I want to say it was George Orwell, but I may be wrong. I probably am. In any way, because whatever, he's much more famous than that kind of stuff would imply. But you could totally go and be like homeless person, but then like live stream it and document it.
I mean, that was my plan.
And then you might be able to start like a Patreon, you know, and be like, hey.
That's my OnlyFans.
The only problem is that, you know, like once the other people in your homeless encampment realize that you are a total faker, they're probably going to steal all your stuff and not be able to live stream anymore.
My original plan was to become a monk.
There you go.
It didn't work out.
Not a lot of money in monkey.
I mean, it's the amount just about the same as jiu-jitsu.
That's not true. It's not true. Although, you know, like if you actually get accepted into like where do monks live? A monastery? Monastery.
Yeah.
Then you're probably all your food and your meal and your lodging, everything's taken care of. It's just you can't talk. You can't own anything.
You can talk.
No, you don't. You have a vow of silence?
No, that's not all monasteries.
Anyway.
I went to Shaolin.
See you guys tomorrow.
It costs $5,000 a year. And they
Really?
Yeah, it's actually not that bad. Cheaper than living here.
Wow.
But then you have to live in Shaolin. It smells like a barn.
I wonder if is our sound still on? Our sound is still. Oh, wait. Let me go here.
Do you have a closing?
Yes. Do you like it?
Oh my god.
Bye, guys. It looks cool. Look at it. It's like a glitch.
What's that? Did you put Chinese characters in there?
What do they say? That was my thing. I don't know what they say.
Nangan Qincai?
It says, I don't know what they say.
Nangan.
Something Gaijing.
looks like Ji-Tai. What's Ji-Tai?
I don't know. They just put that on there. I didn't know what to do with it. I'm pretty sure it doesn't say samurai. I was thinking like maybe I should try to figure out what the characters for samurai are. That would be better.
Naganda. Weird. I don't know what that means. I'm gonna look it up.
Look it up. You like that though, don't you?
It's weird.
It's cool, right? All right, bye guys.
Why'd